Joining me now, Mark Thiessen, a former presidential speechwriter for President George W. Bush, an American Enterprise Institute fellow and a Fox News contributor, and Mark Hanna, who worked as a Democratic campaign veteran on the Kerry and Obama presidential campaigns. Welcome to you both. And so John McCain was not happy, and to see, George Shultz saluting, we didn't have it on camera, but to stand up a 94-year-old and salute his 91-year-old counterpart there at the table. What do you make of it, Mark?
Which Mark?
Sorry, Mark Thiessen. You're right, good point.
Well, first of all, they're protesting U.S. policy from the 1970s. Henry Kissinger is 91 years old. Chile is a democracy, and with apologies to Chevy Chase, Generalissimo Augusto Pinochet is still dead. So I think the 70s called and they want their protest signs back. But this is not unusual. Code Pink just disrupted McCain's hearing on ISIS in September. 2 days ago, a group of left-wing activists disrupted a trade hearing. And when I worked in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in the 1990s, Nancy Pelosi came over and disrupted a hearing with Senator Jesse Helms was holding, and she went on to be Speaker of the House.
Well,
so
there we have a picture of that. Folks. She doesn't look that disruptive there, I have to say, but it's just a picture.
She was pretty disruptive.
But John McCain was on with Cavuto today, and he explained why he got so angry. Listen here.
Now, this is a 91-year-old man who, by the way, is recovering from a broken shoulder, who, by the way, has served his nation, in my view, incredibly honorably over many, many years, going all the way back to World War II. And they treat him this way, something dang handcuffs over Dr. Kissinger's head. Is that the way that the United States Senate is supposed to be conducted in this fashion? Of course not.
Mark Hanna, does he have a point?
He has a great point. Dr. Kissinger, for whatever substantive sort of criticisms you want to make about the foreign policy under his leadership, has this group Code Pink that interrupted and was completely a nuisance and completely obnoxious, has been a thorn in the side, not just of Republicans, but when I was working on the Kerry campaign or the Obama campaign, they would come out and they would just...
Everybody's got a story about them.
Oh, yeah, they're horrible. They're atrocious. they're nefarious, and they're so infamous on if you live in Washington, D.C. So the thing that I took issue with, I wish Senator McCain hadn't stooped to their level, because as a public servant, as a public official, he did exactly, unfortunately, what they hoped he would do, which is he took their bait, and he shot back, and it was below the dignity of his office and below his dignity. I have tremendous respect for Senator McCain. And he basically shot back and called them scum. Like, he engaged them when he should have just been sort of taken the high road
above it
there.
all? What do you make of that, Mark Thiessen?
I agree with that, actually. I remember, the problem with these kinds of protests is that the left always goes too far. They can't help themselves. They're so filled with hate that they have to protest and they have to disrupt things. They're not convincing anybody when they do this. Nobody was convinced by this protest. And I remember the moment that, you remember all the protests against Governor Scott Walker in Wisconsin. I remember the moment that I knew Scott Walker was going to win his recall election, was when the protesters came and disrupted a speech he was giving to Special Olympians. They came in dressed as zombies and disrupted an event for special needs kids. And what he did was very smart. Somebody said to him, "Why didn't you go Chris Christie on them?" And he said, because it was about the kids. I didn't want to make it about me and the protesters. So he didn't rise to the bait, and I think John McCain should have done the same.
Do you think, Mark Hanna, that this is a general lack of civility? People generally say, oh, there's less civility in Washington than there's ever been before. Is that true?
You know what? We like to romanticize our history as a country, but there's absolutely seeing John McCain say that, see Chris Christie engage a heckler and basically heckle back at a heckler and tell him to sit down and shut up. Like you didn't get that in previous campaign cycles, or you didn't get that. But you know what? We've always had a culture in this country of treating our politicians, frankly, with a lack of respect. And there's been satire, there's been cartoons drawn of Abraham Lincoln as an ape, as a monkey. You had, the public, the masses have always ridiculed and lampooned their elected officials.
There should be some sort of a line when you're talking about a 91-year-old man.
There should be, although Dr. Kissinger has pretty thick skin. He's been hearing this for quite a while.
He's tough.
It's the age-old Mark Twain said, never argue with stupid people because they'll drag you down to their level and they'll beat you with experience every time.
And I should have called him doctor. I called him Mr.